So I'm just gonna get into it. I know I said I wouldn't post a lot, but I've been seeing posts by brokerages and other realtors displaying the percentage of realtors that didn't do a deal in 2025. The numbers are correct. 66% of realtors in Ontario did not do a deal in 2025. Now, the way some brokerages and realtors are posing that is where my concern comes in. There's a lot of factors that make that number. One, and the biggest one, is that most of them are part-time realtors. And I'm not knocking that. Listen, in the economic times we're in, there's nothing wrong with real estate being your side hustle, because you got to take care of your house first, right? Like, I get it, you know, real estate should be a full-time gig. I'm a full-time realtor, but you know, a lot of people have different lifestyles, and some just can't do real estate full-time, so it becomes a side hustle. So that's one thing. So when I hear like brokerages and other realtors saying, look at the numbers, let's paint the picture, man. 66% of them most of them are part-time. And again, that's fine. When I used to recruit, we weren't bringing on part-time agents, but times are different. 2025 was a year, right? And 10% of the realtors did most of the deals, right? And everybody else fell in between. So that being said, you know, I'm seeing these posts and I'm listening to some of these brokerage managers, brokerages saying, come to me, like, I'll teach you. Great. And you know, and you hear the coaches, I have the system that's gonna, you know, magical system. Great. You're always gonna learn. But at the end of the day, it's more than just training and coaching and systems that everybody's talking about. While it's very important, and a lot of brokerages do offer a lot of training, which is fantastic, and a lot of coaches offer, you know, different systems, which is great, because you always want to learn. I've been coached by a few different coaches, and you're always taking something away from it. But there's a bigger factor in all that. So let's put it into perspective. 2025 was, you know, you see on CTV, I saw an article on CTV, they were saying worst year. It was a bad year. It was, you know, I had a down year. Even the top producers had down years. When you look at your overall numbers, yeah, 2025 was a down year. Not for everybody, but, you know, for a lot of realtors, myself included. So, you know, now I'm looking at the factors now, and I was, you know, seeing all these posts and seeing these articles, and what I do is I think, and I sit there and I'm like, why? Well, I'm in my mid-40s. I bought my first property at 25 years old, which was back in 2004 or 5, whatever. The interest rates weren't super low, they weren't super high, it was just different, right? So I'm of that generation that bought 25 years ago. So now I'm on my, you know, 4th or 5th, and I'm probably at the end of my purchasing for now. Like, I don't foresee myself buying or selling for a while. Like a lot of people in my demographic, they've kind of gotten to the art of raising their family, and then they're settled. So now I'm looking at, like, you know, the later millennials, so the younger millennials and the older Gen Zs. That's an entire generation of buyers that, because of the economic conditions we find ourselves in, have been pretty much priced out of the market. The biggest factor is it's the highest unemployment rate. It's all over the news. The highest unemployment rate among that generation in a generation. So the unemployment rate is through the roof at that age group. You know, a lot of them are just getting out of school and they're trying to start their careers, or wherever they find themselves in lives. The unemployment rate is very high. 2, the prices of properties. Like, what I paid for my first property, mind you, it was a condo, but what I paid for my first property, it was $190,000 when I bought it in 2005. That same condo today is probably trading, in our market, probably like in mid to high 5s. So, and my maintenance fee, that was a big one. My maintenance fee when I bought my condo was $280 a month. In that same building, the maintenance fees are ranging around $900. So when this generation is trying to get into the market, okay, interest rates have come down. Maybe some of them, have gotten into their careers. A lot of them don't have work, so they don't qualify in that sense. But then you're looking at the inventory, the condo inventory. You can't buy them because the prices have gone up and the maintenance fees have 100 times since I purchased mine. So we're looking at all that, and I'm listening to these realtors. Let's and this the news, like just perpetuating this doom and gloom. It's difficult out there, but when I see it as a whole, you have it's not a real estate problem. It's an economic issue where you have a whole generation that are pretty much on the sidelines because they just can't get into the market. So why did 2025, even though the interest rates came down and borrowing costs came down and prices of properties came down, we're down, I'm looking at the number, 11% year over year from 2024 to 2025, 11% in the GTA. That's a big number to come down in terms of overall prices. So why are they still on the sidelines? Why can't they get into the market? They don't have jobs. There's no jobs. They're pretty much priced out of the market, and with 2025, everything came down and we should have put more buyers into the market. Well, that whole generation that doesn't have jobs and that can't find a secure job and that they can't save to get into the market, well, how many thousands, maybe tens of thousands of properties didn't get sold? Because you're saying that the amount of properties are down. Well, of course, when you have an entire generation that's out of the market because they can't get into the market, there's your main issue, right? Because the boomers are done, they're downsizing and there's very few of them. I'm Gen X or whatever, I'm almost done. I'm really not thinking of moving for the next who knows how long, and you have the early millennials, which are close to my age. They're like me, they're kind of settled because they have their families. And it's the later millennials that they can't get into the market, and the early Gen Zs, they can't get into market because they don't have the sustained jobs and the affordability to do so. So please, when you're watching all these videos and you're hearing these realtors, tell, oh, I did this, I did that. Yeah, you did it. It's great. It's great that you're in that, you're in that 10%. But look at all the factors. When you're pricing out an entire generation, well, that's going to bring, the overall numbers down. So just critical thinking for everybody. I just wanted to put it out there. I've been sitting on it for a couple of days, looking at the numbers and trying to put it all together. And that's what I came up with, because that's the only logical explanation when you've pretty much priced out an entire generation of buyers that just simply can't get into the market right now. I'm not saying they're never going to get into the market. I'm not saying it's not going to get better. It's going to get better. 2026, we're all hopeful. I'm hopeful. Everybody's, hopeful that the economy changes. Not just real estate. I mean, the economy as a whole. I talk to other business owners that are friends of mine. Their numbers are down. Everybody as a whole. When you're in business for self, it's a risk. Whether it's real estate, whether it's, like my brother in photography, my friends in construction that they own their own businesses. Numbers are down across the board. So, everybody's hopeful that 2026 kind of, not propels back up, but rebounds back up. And like me, I'm hopeful as well. So that being said, watch the numbers. Realtors out there, coaches, please don't promise things that magic potions. Coaches, yeah, you're there to teach and it's great. Brokerages, don't promise training you can't fulfill. I know the agent has to show up, but I'm going to hold the brokerages accountable. When you promise a training, you stick to it, because I've seen a lot that they start and then the brokerage kind of tapers off itself. So everybody just kind of hold yourself accountable the way I hold myself accountable. I'm pivoting and I'm changing, my strategies constantly. You just have to when you're in business. So everybody, especially the coaches, because I'm seeing those, I have the solution. There's no magic solution. You're in business, you analyze your business, you take what you can from all these coaches and trainers, you take what you can, you apply it to your business and see if it works. You analyze your business all the time. That's the only advice I'm going to give. Constantly analyze your business. I'm not saying coaches are no good. Coaches are great because they're going to teach you something that you can apply to your business. And that's what you want. Like I said, realtors out there, there's no magic solution. It's work. Owning a business, ask anybody that's in business, whether it's real estate or anything else, it's hard work. Anyways, it's a long one. Have a great day. We'll talk to you next time.